that's not the reality of our story.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people think like, oh, you have a 15-year-old. And sometimes we're like, you realize that we have never left the toddler stage.
Ever.
Like never.
Ever.
The thought that if we stepped out for just half of a day, he wouldn't survive.
Yeah, whatever. Out what his face looked like. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Autism Life Today. We're excited that you are joining us again. Thank you for continuing to join us on this journey of just meeting people all over the world to talk about the special needs industry. Today, my guest is a mom of a special needs son and our first author. Her book, which we're going to show, is going to be Seek the Goodness. We'll show you, we'll do some links to it, and we'll show you the book, and we got it here on our wide shot that you'll be able to check it out. But it's Tiffany Snow, Seek the Goodness. So with no further ado, Tiffany.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for coming on.
I did not know that I'm the first author, so that's fun.
You're the very first author, so we're thankful for you to be here. Is this your first book?
It is.
But you've done a lot of other writings, I know. This is just the first time that we've put pen to paper to put it in our own book. This, for you, let's just start from the beginning.
Okay.
A little about your journey, your family, like how how this whole thing came about for you.
Yeah, I mean, we were chatting earlier before, and I was not raised a believer. It wasn't that I didn't know of a God or, my dad's side of the family was Catholic. And so you had some kind of understanding, but it was more of a CEO, let's go to church on Christmas and Easter and then just, ask for forgiveness. And it wasn't really about the relationship. That didn't come until a lot later in life when God grabbed a hold of me. And so my husband and I met in college, and we moved from Michigan to Arizona. And I thought I was just tired. I was teaching high school. Who isn't tired? I was teaching high school kids, I was driving from Gilbert to El Mirage because I was teaching at Dice Art High School, and it was just all the things. And I remember going out for a bachelorette party on a Saturday, and I was at Target. I'm like, I should grab a pregnancy test. For what reason? I don't really know why, and sure enough, I went home and took it, and it was positive. And my husband and I were like, what? Not that it was, it just was what it was. We weren't trying. We weren't preventing. It was just like, okay, it wasn't really what we were planning. We genuinely were shocked. So I went to the doctor that next week, and she's like, you can start telling people because you're 13 weeks pregnant in your second trimester. And I was like, what? So my first pregnancy flew by. Like when you're already in your second trimester and you find out, it's like, oh, this is really fast, actually. It's not bad at all. I had a totally normal pregnancy, no reason in my view to think that anything was going on. Now I had excessive amniotic fluid, and that is a telltale sign that something is going on with your pregnancy. My doctor did not disclose that information to me. So there was a lot going on with that I think that she was emotionally taking on for me instead of divulging to me. And since, it was just a really unfortunate situation, she ended up committing suicide. And so it was a whole really wild thing. Yeah, it was really crazy.
What?
So sad. Yep. She had found out that her husband was having an affair. She had 3 little kids, suffered from postpartum, and just ended her life. And it was really sad. Like, so sad.
That's really sad.
But now looking back, I think to myself as a mom, I think that maybe she had an idea and she was emotionally processing for me, like, how would I want to deal with this? But then also being depressed in all of that, and maybe was her way of protecting me. And I don't know. I could be totally off base, but I don't think any of it was malicious or malpractice or anything like that. I think it was she was dealing with what she was dealing with and then trying to absorb maybe a lot of what I was going through.
And this happened like right after the pregnancy? Like
after I delivered.
Wow.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah, it was wild. A week before I had him, she was like, I think he's going to be really big for you. I'm small for reference, 5'1", tiny, fun size. And my husband was 10.5 pounds. His whole family is huge babies. And so she knew that. And when you have excessive amniotic fluid, your measurements of your baby aren't always accurate. And so she thought he was going to be huge. And
because the fluid is surrounding and like creating a bigger picture than
maybe
what might be. Got it.
Okay. And so she was like, he's going to be really big. And I think that you should have a C-section, but I'm going to send you to ultrasound specialist, like another level ultrasound specialist, just to make sure. And that's what she had told me. So when we got there, they're doing all the scans and doing all the things. And I'm just elated, like so excited, Mom, this baby's coming out. I'm so excited to have my first child. And the doctor comes in and she's like, well, the good news is that there's no water on the brain. And I just remember being so taken aback and blindsided. I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, well, do you not know why you're here? And I was like, well, I thought I was here because we were just confirming he was going to be too big. And this was going to be kind of like CYA for my doctor to do a C-section on somebody who maybe
that's what it's told. That's
need.
Literally what it's told is here for, yeah.
And she was like, oh, no, your doctor sent you here because she was worried that your son had water on his brain. I was like,
what?
Cool. So it was just this weird
like,
dynamic of like.
Things are not being disclosed.
No.
Like she's really holding some stuff to chest there. So it is kind of odd.
And so I still was like, okay. And I have a crazy discernment ticker. And I was like, I don't know, maybe something's off, but whatever. I'm still just elated and excited. And we're just going to do this. And so I go in for my C-section and he's born and they say he's floppy. Well, I had never been around a newborn before, so my assumption is that all newborns are floppy. Like, isn't that?
I don't even know what floppy means.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, it didn't make any sense. And so basically what it is, and now having 2 other kids, is that he had no reflex, like no muscle. Like you would lift up his arm and it would just fall. Like there was no resistance at all whatsoever. So now it makes sense. But at the time, I'm like...
Yeah, because like babies can be like stiff. They can be, like fighting you. And so he's not just like completely, the body's lethargic and kind of like hanging.
Yes. And then just didn't eat. And not like terror screaming, didn't eat, just was happy-go-lucky. And that's totally how he is now 15 years later. Just happy to be here. It's fine. And so he lost a pound in the first 24 hours. And I remember the doctors and nurses shuffling around. And it was the first time that I was like, maybe something's not right. And I delivered where I delivered because I wanted him to be with me. I didn't want him to go into a nursery. I wanted him to be with me for the whole time. And so they were like, we have to take him into the NICU at that hospital. And I was so mad. Like, I did all this research and I did all this stuff and I'm delivering here. I don't want him to be in there. They're like, well, we just want to monitor him and keep him on a feeding schedule. I'm like, that's fine. And then a neonatologist came in and talked with us and was like, so here's the deal. Very foreign. So I'm not even going to attempt to say the accent and spare you all, but just very foreign, couldn't understand, and said basically either your son is going to grow out of this and this is just going to be something that he needed a little extra help, or his lungs are going to collapse and he's not going to make it through the night. And that's what we're looking at.
Oh my gosh.
And so we were like, talk about bedside manner. That's terrible. Yeah. You're going from one pendulum to the next. And at this point, he was like, so I think the best recommendation at this point is to transfer you to Phoenix Children's Hospital. And my husband and I like, sign us up, get us out of here. Yeah. This is insane.
Yeah, we're not feeling good about this anyway. So we're good.
Yep.
Get us
perfect.
Gone.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And so they transferred us out.
You don't want to share what hospital that was?
I mean, if you are a local person,
don't be a problem causer.
No. If you are a local person, it is. If you know anyone in the healthcare field, they will tell you that's where the hospital you go to die, and then that's all I'll say. Like people will know what hospital that is.
Oh my gosh!
But nonetheless, I didn't deliver my other 2 there, and yeah. So we get transferred, and that was a wild experience too, because you just get to the NICU and you're just swarms of doctors and nurses and people, and it's just this. And I explain this in the book. It's like this out of body experience that you're just all these things are coming at once, and you're just having a baby. I just came off major surgery. I wasn't taking pain pills, and it was just a whole thing that was just a slew of things. And I remember this guy came up to me and he was like, are you religious? And I'm like, I don't like when people say that. Am I religious? Like, what do you mean?
Who's the guy?
Just some social worker or someone from the hospital.
Okay. They're doing the intake stuff with you. Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I believe in Jesus, if that's what you're asking me. And he's like, well, do you like have a pastor to come over and pray over your son? Because we just ultimately don't know that he's going to make it. And I just want to prepare you for end of life things. And I just still remembered being like, I feel like this is not a good approach. And any which way anybody is taking this at this point, like there is no empathy or grace or anything in any of this. Like
everyone's being way too direct here and not giving any type of hope and comfort.
So I remember my husband and I went into the little chapel, and I don't remember the parable in Matthew that it was on, but I just remember hearing God being like, I'm not taking him. I'm not taking him. Like, calm down. I got this. I'm not taking him. So I so confidently went in with that. Like, I don't know what you all are freaking out about, but God is not taking him. So let's just pump the brakes here and all the things. And
you must have seemed like the weirdo.
Totally.
Because like in that moment, when the person has, and I've been that person and I've seen that person, it's that person that has this crazy calmness in the middle of like pure insanity. And you can't explain it when you have it because you just have it, right? It's just the peace that surpasses all peace, right? And then when you're the panicker and someone else has it, you're like,
why
what
am
are you
I
doing?
not like that?
What is wrong with you? Why are you not overreacting? And you're like, man, if I could have that all the time.
So true.
And as special needs parents, we learn, well, not all of us, you and I have learned, you better live in that space a lot. Like you better have that quiet confidence with him a lot, because this is not going to be fun. Nope. It's not going to be an easy road. And you panicking will help nobody in the family.
Yeah. I remember we were like 3 miles outside of the like Ronald McDonald House. You see it all the time at McDonald's or all the things, and you don't really know what that is if it doesn't impact you. You have no idea. At least I didn't. Maybe I'm the naive one, but we lived in Surprise and obviously Phoenix Children's, and so they were like, there's a mileage cap for you to stay there, and you can stay here because you're 3 miles outside of the cap. So we were like, praise God, we could do that. So we stayed there, but it was almost like feeding my crazy control at that point, because I could transfer back and forth to my room to his NICU side. And so I was not taking care of myself. And so just running myself to the ground at this point, like, okay, God, you said you're not going to take him. I got it at this point. Like I got it. I'm good. I didn't sleep. So my husband and I would be there the entire time, all day long. I would pump around the clock because that was the only thing that I can control at that point. Yeah. So if I can do this, like if I can at least nourish his body with something that God gave me, and I can do it on cue and I can have control of it, then sign me up. I'm in. I got it. And so I was pumping like every 2 hours, still trying to heal myself, refusing to take pain meds because I was too afraid that the pain meds were going to harm him in my breast milk. And so it was just this crazy. And I will never forget. I was in the shower and I felt like my stitches from my C-section were just unraveling. And it was like in that moment that God was like, this is how your life is going to feel if you don't follow me.
Ooh.
And
gave you like a visual representation that you see this.
Yep.
He's like, this is you on your own.
Yes.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wake up call in that shower.
Totally. And I'm like, okay, God. He's like, rest. I got this. And it's really difficult as a special needs parent, probably just as a parent in general. I have both. I have typical kids and I have a special need kid. Yeah. And it's like, when you have the wayward kid, or you have special needs kid, or kids that are just not making the choices that you would want, so difficult to not want to grasp control of any of it and like all the things that I can control. And really, God's already writing the story. I don't need to be so crazy and controlling. But that's a give and take balance for me. I'd like to say that was like the monumental moment that all things changed, and that's been a learned thing.
Kickstarter. It was just a Kickstarter and a reminder. And by the way, on this show, you 100% are allowed to speak freely of how much harder it is.
We'll get into it. Yeah, for sure.
We're not that show.
Yeah,
so like I joke around, and once again, if you're watching the show or you hear it and you get offended, I'm sorry. But here's the deal. For most of our kid is like 4 of yours. And that's just kind of like the truth of it. Like me and my wife, we joke about this. It may not be funny to you. Yeah. It's funny to us. When you complain about your daughter not making the cheerleading team, or your son not making the swim team, or they didn't make honor roll, we're kind of like, boo-hoo. Like, well, I'm sorry. We're trying to figure out why our kid's not smearing poo on the wall, or why they can't say 2 words, or they can't hug, or there's just a level to this that only this community seems to like understand. And it's not to take anything away from parenting is hard across the board. But if you have a special needs kid, you will learn you have to be equipped a little bit differently. Yeah. You will learn that my example that I've taken from other interviews, from other people and readings, is that there have been multiple people that were in the military that then had special needs kids. And this isn't just a one-off. I've read multiples, and they say that some of the PTSD feeling from being over in war is the most comparable way they can explain what it feels like to be under duress constantly with a severely special needs kid. And I thought, dang. Once again, I can't even relate. I've never been in the military. I've never lived that. But like, I thought, okay, these are people that have, and they're saying that level of anxiety that doesn't let up and the level of like control you want to have that you have none of can really shock your system.
And so we get every day his blood levels would improve. And so everybody's scratching their head like, this is like unheard of. We don't understand. Like his neurologist did a study on him because for his CPK levels, because he's like, I've never seen this. Like this doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense. Yeah. When he came in, I would have 1000% diagnosed him this. And by the time he left, I don't know what's going on with this kid other than he's better. And so for 9 days, that was just the give and take back and forth was his levels would improve and they would improve. And they're like, well, we can't keep you here for, genetic testing for however long that takes. If he's thriving and he's doing okay on his own and he's eating, then, you guys will go on your way. And maybe it is that he just needed extra help and it's nothing more than that. And so they discharged us, and there is nothing like the feeling of being discharged from the NICU. Man, you're like, and I know there are parents who have spend far more time than 9 days in the NICU, but that was enough for me to be like, gosh. And then when I had my other two typical kids and they just like send you home and there's no follow up or anything. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure I can take them? Sure? Yeah. And so we got home, and the next 6 weeks were just genuinely blissful, thankful to be home. Like God spared him. He's not taking him. It was just a little hiccup. I remember when we got discharged and I looked up at PCH and he was in the car, and I just remember looking up at the tower and being like, thank God I never have to come back here. I was like fully convinced that it was just a little hiccup, bump in our road, like no big deal. I won't be back here. Yeah. And I could tell you every turn of that hospital, and it's bittersweet because I love that place for all the things that it's done for my kid. And I also hate that I know that. So it's like one of those
for sure
bittersweet things. So we spent the next 6 weeks just doing the newborn thing, and life was just going back to normal. And then we had a follow-up neurology appointment, and he was like, he doesn't have a red reflux, so I'm going to send you to ophthalmology and all these like ologies. I was like, can you just give me the layman term of like what an eye doctor?
About what you're thinking.
Yeah, like and he's like, I don't really know. So I'm just going to send you there, and they'll give you, some more information. And this is the same neurologist that we've had that's getting ready to retire this year, which I'm just devastated about because he's been with us since the very beginning, and he's amazing, and I'm so sad. And I'm like, if you could just keep us on your caseload for just one patient, I'd be so grateful.
Yeah. Isn't that terrible?
Yes.
We say that about we have the same primary for like our whole family. Okay. And like, he's definitely getting up in age. And we always like joke. We're like, you can never retire.
Like
we will just call you and like come do visits at your house. Like, you don't have to take on anyone else, but our family, we're still with you. You know what I mean? It's
totally. You create those bonds, and that is very unique. I have found
the trust.
And so we trust. At that point, we're like, okay,
Well, I think it's safe to say, and once again, I'm not worried about bruising people's egos. Doctors are like a unique group of people. They are a strange group. And like for every 10 you meet, 7 are probably like you are talking about. They are very like plain vanilla bedside manner, may or may not be there. Like, they're just kind of like a little quirky because they are so into like medical, right? Not peopling, but the medical side. Yeah. And then there's probably about 3 of them that like, they just get it. They get the peopling side, and that is the comforting side where you can like interact and do it. And you're very fortunate when you get that. You never want to let go of the ones that you have on that side. Yes. But I would say over these years, I've met more they're on the other side.
I would venture to say that that's not only doctors, that's therapists, that's most of the people that you meet in this realm. And it's that battle of finding out how to be an advocate and be firm without being a complete crazy person where they're like, okay, you can't just fly off the handle. I learned that really early on. My husband was like, you cannot scream at every single person who is not giving you what you want. But I have also learned that my main motto of being a special needs parent is when the door closes, go through the window. Like there's never a no. And I think it's probably in my son's chart. It's funny if people are watching this that deal with my son, they're probably like, oh yeah, that lady. But I think that I firmly believe that no is not an answer. It's maybe that doesn't work for right now. Maybe that's not the best option, but no is not really an answer if I really genuinely feel like it's what's good for my kid.
Yeah.
Period.
It is the truest definition of being an advocate. You hear this word a lot about, in this industry is, an advocacy, right? And I don't think if you've never had to been an advocate for someone who doesn't have a voice or a neurological ability to like speak for themselves, the first time that lots of times people experience if they don't have special needs is when mom and dad are getting older. That would be like your first time being an advocate, right?
Yeah.
And you'll feel it then. But if you've never, it's the responsibility that you feel that weighs on you to be the only voice for this child. It drives you sometimes to be a little erratic. It drives you to be a little emotional. At our company, one of the things and this is because of that. It's because we're first special needs parents first before we are business owners in the industry. I always would tell employees when I'd hire people, I'd say, hey, when you work here, I need you to understand something. You're going to take phone calls throughout the day here. And sometimes some of these phone calls are going to feel like, my best example would be, is you're going to feel like you are like a telemarketer calling someone who doesn't want to talk to you, even though you're not, like they want to talk to you. This mom or dad may have had what feels like the worst day of their life. Things are not going to love on 10 different things. And then for some reason, we couldn't get a service provided or something happened. So when they call you, just remember, they may treat you a certain way or say certain things, and this will happen in this industry. But I promise you, most of the time, they don't mean it. And if you just catch them on another day or even a couple hours later, they really wish they didn't talk like that to you. And that happens a lot. So when you take this job, I want you to remember that hold your composure on our phone calls and do what you can to hear these parents out, because you have no clue what just happened in the last couple hours, last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've had to, I call it pleasantly persistent.
That's a good word. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Pleasantly persistent.
Yeah. But it's no is not really a factor for me. I don't do that.
My wife's phrase is figure it out. That's her phrase. She goes, figure it out. Like, like there's a way to do it.
Yeah. Always.
Your job, like if on the other end, if your job is whatever of this piece of the puzzle, then figure it out. So totally. That's hers.
Yeah. So we went to ophthalmology and they're like, he has cataracts. And I remember being so angry because I thought that they brought in the wrong chart. And I thought that they were just delivering me this news of one of your old patients. Yeah. And he's brand new. Like, that doesn't happen.
Why do you have cataracts? Cataracts is a thing you get when you're older. What do you mean he has cataracts?
I was
he's a baby.
So frustrated. Yeah. And he was so gracious and kind to me. And he was like, talk about, for every doctor that we have had that has literally made me want to murder someone, we have had ones that have just been abundantly graceful. Mm-hmm. And he was one of them. Like, God specifically placed him there for that moment. Yeah. And he was like, I get it. Yeah. I know that this seems way outlandish, but it is what's going on. Your son has cataracts, and my guess is probably glaucoma. And so I'm not the doctor in this practice that deals with that, but I'm going to send you to the one that does, and we'll get this figured out. And just very reassuring and calm, and took in my crazy and wasn't like, combating me and going nuts, and just really had that, what you're trying to create in the culture here is like, I get it. Like, I understand that this is alarming and you think that I'm nuts. And I promise you, I wish I was. And I think, as a matter of fact, he said that, like, I wish I was reading the wrong chart for you.
Yeah.
And so I got home, my husband and I got home and Googled cataracts in newborns. And it's like the telltale sign of my son's syndrome. It's called Lowe syndrome, like the home store, Lowe. And they had not, it's so rare. And they had not tested
Is it
for
one
that.
of those like
like
one in whatever?
Yep.
Yeah. Is Lowe the name of the doctor that originally found it or something? I know sometimes they're like named after.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. So break it down for me.
We met with that ophthalmologist and he's like, yeah, it's for real. He has cataracts and glaucoma. We have to remove his internal lenses. We have to put in shunts for his glaucoma and he's got to get the surgery now. Like there's no waiting. Yeah. There's no waiting period. Like he's going to be on my surgery schedule next week. No. And that was our first like conditioning of really, and my son's really medically complex. So autism was kind of like the cherry on top of our whole entire journey. So that wasn't where we started. That was just a component of it. Really. Yeah. It's just been a lot of makes sense for a lot of things, helps advocate for him like crazy because people know what are more familiar with how to deal with autistic kids versus, oh, my son has Lowe syndrome and doctors are looking at me like that wasn't in my studies when I was.
We didn't learn that in our residency program.
At all. No. And it's a weird place to be as a parent when you're more knowledgeable than someone who went to school to practice medicine. Yeah. Wild.
Which happens a lot with the rare ones. I know that whenever I meet parents that have the super rare genetic disorders, like mom becomes PhD level on it because there's no one else. So like, oh, I'm one of 1,000 in the world. Who's dedicating a practice is just not. So it becomes like that. You literally become, and the group usually becomes very strong together. I'm sure there's probably a Lowe group.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that. What's your son's name, by the way?
Mason.
Okay. Mason. I like to have the name to connect.
And he's just the sweetest. He genuinely. So to say your wife had the same, any woman has the same chance of having a son with Lowe syndrome if you're not a carrier. So it's like 0.0000375 chance to have a son with Lowe syndrome. And we always say, but God, I always prayed when I was pregnant with him, don't let me be a product of my environment growing up. I don't want to be an angry mom. I don't want to be these things that I'm conditioned to know. I want to be a God-fearing mom. And whatever that looks like, God, let it be. Yeah. And I genuinely feel like he was like, okay, I'm going to give you this gift. And that's a lot of times what I say too is God didn't do this to me. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't something that was against me. Or I had people sometimes be like, early on in the Bible, generationally, like this might be a curse in your family. I'm like, okay, well, it's not something to say to a special needs mom, first of all, and way theologically not okay. Yeah. But all right. Sure, those things happened. There's things within our genealogy that we have to hit head on and change the legacy of. And yes, that is true. But no, God gave him to us to genuinely form us into the people that God created us to be. And that's what he did. And what a gift. What a gift to say, no, you're not Lowe syndrome. You are image bearer and legacy changer. And that's really what he's done for our family.
Yeah. I think that that's a tough one, right? Because, bad things do happen to good people. Yep. The big one, right? Yep. Everyone's always like, I don't understand. Totally. I don't understand. And I'm very open with people. No matter what circle I'm in, I'm transparent. And I have my own side lists of questions for God. I do. I got my own. I have my convictions of like what I believe, and I believe he's good. But I do have my side questions for sure, right? One of those side questions would be like, I know beyond a doubt that my life is infinitely better because of my son.
Sure.
Infinitely. Everything about our life only exists, like our marriage, our business, all of it is better because of our son.
Yep.
But why does our son have to suffer so much, right?
Yeah.
So like that's where it gets into like, I get how, and I get that sin entered the world because of us. So I get that too. But my sidebar question, right, for him later on my little notepad I'm going to have, right, is, but wasn't there another way that didn't, why was he the one that suffered, right? Now we know that there's probably some visual representation here of the cross, right?
You literally, you saw it already.
You're right. There's for sure.
Yeah.
And I have to just be okay with that.
Yep.
And that's where
That's
I
a
will
hard
sit.
thing.
But it will always be the thing for all of us. And when you spend, and I spend time with all walks of life, it'll be the hard hitter one for atheist families where they'll be like,
Totally.
there's no way there's God because what your God does, and they'll never see that. And that's where also they're sitting in that negative pool. And it's like, oh man, like you're missing how much good here is can be done. Because like you, me and my wife did not come from that type of strong background of like the people prepared for it. We partied and we lived however we wanted to live, and we did the complete opposite way of life.
Yeah.
What made us truly change? What made us change was we knew there was no way our marriage, no way our family was ever going to survive, ever, unless we made radical changements. So it took two people that were selfish and two people that were inwardly focused and two people that were not patient ever, right? You take a bunch of like just loud Italians and throw them in a, like we just weren't those human beings.
Oh, this is fun.
Right?
We didn't exchange that. I'm Italian too, so you get it.
All that,
I get it.
You throw all that like stuff together, and you don't have people that are like, you know, hey, we're going to center ourselves. That's not what you've got, right? And God's like, oh, you will, because it's the only way you're going to create an environment that little boy is going to survive in.
Yeah.
And I need you to survive. And we've talked about this multiple times that, you know, the divorce rate in special needs families is over 83%. So knowing that, right, with that stat, I mean, you already in the world today have, so God's like, but with this guy, I'm going to show you a different way. So
yeah, that is something I would say is the majority conversation is I can't believe in your God because how is any of this good? And I think that I've had to learn that we have to come to the table and it's not, is this good? It's, well, where is your definition of good coming from? Because good is a definition that only God can give, because what we deserve is death.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, you got nothing. I don't need anything.
And the fact that we even get to breathe existence in this life and then surrender ourselves, and he still chooses us beyond any of it. And then that this isn't our final resting place. This is just a stopping point. We're just a shell or a vapor. And then I get to live the rest of my life with a healed son and in paradise for eternity. I don't get tripped up on the good of this world that is so
shortness,
gone.
Just a dash. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, and obviously you're speaking from you, but tell me a little bit about your husband and how what this has been like for him. What's the journey been like as he was learning as a special needs dad?
Sure. Obviously men and women internalize so differently.
Yeah.
He's so kind and gracious. I joke that he's super sensitive, and he doesn't like that, but genuinely I say it from a place of...
We don't like that.
No, I know he
like
doesn't.
That.
I know you don't, but it's a good characteristic. It's a good one to have. And I mean it in all the best ways, genuinely. Like a Jesus sensitive. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like he's not a...
I'll receive it for him the correct way, for sure. And but I also understand what he feels like when you say it.
It took a long time for me to not deliver it in a way that's like, you're so sensitive, you know, this passive aggressive way. But genuinely, he is. But he's also, I think, just had to learn. So my husband's from Michigan, played hockey through college. That was like, you live and breathe hockey and his, you know, in his life. And so that was his aspirations of like, I mean, one of Mason's first things was a Red Wings jersey. I mean, those were kinds of things that he had to process of like, from a male perspective is my son's probably not going to play hockey. Yeah. My son might not even walk. We had a doctor one time tell us, you know, your son is probably never going to walk, talk, or amount to much. So, you know.
Yeah.
And we were like, I mean, the one time, like, stop short, you don't know our God, so we're not going to track on that. Thanks. And so he'll joke now, like, I wish that guy could babysit Mason and be like, do you see God now? Because you said he wouldn't be like that. Yeah. So he's grown exponentially because of Mason too, as just a more understanding person, I think. He's always been very kind and gracious, and that's something that I was attracted to before we even had kids. But just the level of things, and I'm sure you're like this with your son too, the level of things that he's willing to do for his son that from a worldly perspective would be dumb or demasculized or, just anything. He's like, don't care. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for my son. And now that he's older and growing, he's 15. I actually just saw something of yours that was talking about puberty. And we've gotten to that place to where like, let's pause and like, is this puberty or is this him special needs, autistic stuff? And now that our middle guy is entering into this preteen, teenager puberty thing, we're like, oh, no, this sucks. Like,
you're just all
either way.
You're all buttholes. You're all just mouthy and erratic and have behaviors because that's what you are. You're a teenager boy with testosterone and you're growing up. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And you're just like, your brain is not functioning and not fully formed and you have no idea what you're doing. And so Mason has very much, rightfully so, wanted my husband to care for him a lot more than me because
he made the transition with that point where they say that I only want mom, I only want dad, and then they come back later to like mom again, right? There's like different seasons, right?
Yeah, it's more physical for him. So like Mason is G-tube fed. So we feed him through a G-tube. All of his nutrition comes from that. He has obviously these habilitation goals where he's going to shower himself. And we really pride ourselves. And we don't want your story to be that you have to depend on us. We want you to be able to independently shower and get dressed and wipe yourself. But that's not the reality of our story.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people think like, oh, you have a 15-year-old. And sometimes we're like, you realize that we have never left the toddler stage.
Ever.
Like never.
Ever.
If we, the thought that if we stepped out for just half of a day, he wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
Is wild.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
It's a lot for someone to process.
It's exhausting. And I think for my husband and I both, it's having to learn when to tap out and be like, I can't do this today. Like, I need you, like, to come to the common ground of being like, I need you to understand that I'm tapped out today. And I need you to step in and fill this. And I think that he's probably feeling that a lot more now because Mason doesn't want his mom to shower him. He's 15 and like, he just doesn't want that.
Yep.
No 15-year-old would want their mom to shower them at this point. Like my 12-year-old is like, Mom, get out. Like, and so it's balancing that, but also I was primarily more the caregiver for him when he was growing up, and now it's flipping. And so it's trying to communicate the needs of each other, what he needs without getting, angry about it or exploding or, doing all of these things for Mason and feeling appreciated or feeling like, hey, do you see it? Which is maybe how I felt when I was caring for him when he was, younger. And so recognizing that, communicating that. And I just think that overall, it's just really shaped my husband into being a pretty remarkable man that just.
And I haven't met him. And I already know he is because I know what it takes to be a dude like that. I think that one of the things that people also don't process is that it's not really in most of our cases that it ever gets better. It just gets different.
Changes. Yeah.
That's all it is. So Taven for sure is better, but the seasons of life are just different, right? At one time it was this, and then for a couple of years it was this, but it really still, the struggles are the struggles. They've just modified and adjusted. So you never fully get out from under it. And I think that like, you have casual, once again, a lot of us don't have a lot of casual conversation when we're out just hanging out and barbecuing and birthday party and whatnot. But when you have casual conversation, people are always like, they want to be like, oh, well, yeah, but it will get better. Like they always think you're just in a phase and then you can't wait. They're not getting the end of the story. There's no act 3. The act 3 doesn't ever come. The act 3 does come, but it's with him, right? Our Heavenly Father is the act 3. We're in act 1 almost forever. We're lucky if we get to act 2, and that can be wonderful for those that do. But for the most part, we just stay in act 1 the entire time.
Yeah.
It just modifies a little bit and changes, and the setup's a little bit different. And there's some stuff that is unique. But,
and people will ask that. I remember when he was little, is it terminal? And I used to joke, like, yeah, we're all terminal. If you didn't know, no one's getting out alive. Like, that's just how this goes, right?
Humor,
that's it. It's definitely how I balance things without completely just losing it on people.
So let's get into this. So I love the story. So and obviously I know that you were a teacher. So I'm guessing that had to do with like that burning fire of like why you felt God probably put in your heart to put this pen to paper in a book, right? Is that kind of, or no?
Gosh, no, I don't think so.
Tell me,
I mean, I was an English language literature major.
Yeah.
Like writing has always been my thing.
Okay.
Never imagined that it would be for this reason. When Mason was born, I had the idealistic teacher pregnancy. So he was born during spring break.
Yep.
And then I got to write out my maternity leave, give finals for 2 days, and then I was off for the whole summer. So it's like the dream for a teacher, right? But during that time is when we got his diagnosis. And I had told my principal, like, if this is confirmed, I'm not coming back. And she was so great. And she was like, okay, she had to go to district and fight for me. Otherwise, I would have to pay to get out of my contract for my teaching position because I had already paid it. So I knew once his diagnosis came in after that first year, this is not where God's calling me to teach other kids when my own kid needs me to advocate for him. And so just started advocating for him. And it was in the therapy offices or doctor's offices or different conversations with moms who would be like, man, I just wish that I had an ounce of faith that you do. But honestly, I don't know your God. I don't really care to know your God. And I'm just, defeated, rightfully so, right? If you don't know the hope of heaven, this is a really terrible situation.
Yeah.
Like this is all I have and this is the cards that I'm dealt.
Yeah.
Like, no thanks.
The why
I don't want to do that.
thing can go keep you in that dark place fast.
And I just started to realize, man, if I could just have more than 15 minutes with you to tell you like exactly how God showed up in this exact story that you're going through in my life, or had all of these things that I'm like, but if I just had something tangible that I could hand to a mom and say, maybe this isn't for you right now, but God's going to meet you someday with this sometime. And
I love it.
So then I started blogging a little bit, and it just, the years go by. I had 2 other kids. I'm trying to just survive in the trenches. And so it was never really something that I could give time to. And then 2 years ago, God was like, remember that thing that I put on your heart? I'm going to need you to do that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments that God was like, if you don't do this, you're stepping out of disobedience. So make a choice.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
It's like,
Your story is a little full circle.
Yeah, totally.
You see how that 20 years later, basically it was like, I called you before and I'm calling you again.
Totally.
And I need this from you. And I need you to prove that you'll give me this time. I know it's not easy. It's not any easier now than it was. It's pretty awesome.
And not only that, said, and get off social media, which is funny because in the author world, in the publishing world, your platform matters. And, you need to have this much audience and you need to have all these things. And God was like, I get to decide where this is going. So these are the stipulations. And so I got off of social media. I had writing Wednesdays, and we have a sweet, sweet little sitter. And she was like, yeah, I'll watch the kids on Wednesdays because I have to treat it like a job, right? Like I'm not getting paid for it, but I'm doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
And it's still something very important that if I don't plan ahead and prepare for it, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not.
For those of you watching this or listening, just an insight, if you've never been in this world before, because I actually used to write and produce TV and commercials and whatnot. There's a thing that happens. I know you might hear her and you hear this whole like, well, I had to take writing Wednesdays. What you have to understand is something happens in your mind when you're a creative. And if you're not a creative, this may not jam, but I need you to understand it because it's important. Your mind, kind of like when you're distracted, if you have a task and every 20 minutes you get distracted, your mind never fully gets into this groove where things come through you to like pen to paper. And that same thing is true like with your faith life. If you don't give God appropriate amount of time there and you're always interrupting it, you don't go deep enough.
So good.
So when she says this, you have to have that. Any author who's ever written anything or done anything, you need crazy amount of quiet time to allow you to get into the mode to really go deep enough to allow the words to hit the paper. So like without that, it never happens. There is no, I'm going to grab 30 minutes. No person that's ever written anything has ever done it like that, ever. I promise you. It's always been done where they've had to literally work it like a job, dedicate time. And even if in the 8 hours, you're only writing one of it, you might've spent 7 going deep on the creative process. So this is awesome.
That was exactly it. And it was hard and it took a year. And what God showed me and revealed to me in that time with him and off of social media was that you're not going to do this for an audience. You're going to do this because I asked you to do it. And then I will bring the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes authors will be like, well, that's just kind of saying like, oh, I didn't really do anything and it happened. Like, no, I did a lot of stuff actually to make it happen.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that this is for this is solely to point people to Jesus. It wasn't for the dollar amount. It wasn't for the recognition. It wasn't for the stage presence. It wasn't for any of that. Because if I could give a mom where I was at one point some hope when it's really, really hard that this isn't it, and that there's a hope of heaven and there's a Jesus that can rescue you from this, and that your days don't have to be so heavy, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's the win. That is the reward.
That's that. And it's been wild. Like even sitting on this podcast, it was genuinely, I didn't seek it out. You know, it just happened. Connections happened. People, you know, and that's been the same experience. It's the same way I write for Proverbs 31 Ministries. I serve on their first 5 writing team. That again, it was like just an obedience to God when he calls you out to say, write this piece and that's just be okay with it. And then I'll do the rest. I never imagined that me saying yes to writing that piece that I didn't want to write. I was a brat about it and I made it all about me. And he woke me up on a Sunday morning, the Sunday before submission week, and was like, do you see that you're doing this all within your own strength? Once again, I asked you to write it because I will give you the words. I don't really care if you don't like it. I'm asking you to do it. I had zero idea that that would open up the door for me to then serve a ministry that I adore and love so much, and would have never imagined God would have opened that kind of door. And I certainly couldn't have done it myself. And so that's what he's done with Seek the Goodness. And it's so sweet to hear women say, you know, I felt so seen. I remember being a mom. Nobody else had special needs kids or nobody else. Everybody I knew was just going here and there. Have you ever heard or read the poem Welcome to Holland?
Yeah.
And that was exactly what it was, is everybody else was going to Italy. And here I am in Holland. But Holland is beautiful and there are beautiful things. And it is really, there are days that are really hard. You're right. Like, don't sugarcoat that. Like sometimes it sucks. Yeah. Sometimes it's like alarm after alarm. Or perfect example, yesterday sucked. Yesterday, my son had 3 appointments. We were back and forth in appointments. We found out that he has scoliosis. He's developing scoliosis. He developed an abscess that he had to get drained and was screaming in excruciating pain. Like, this is not a matter of me saying, I have a relationship with Jesus and he solves all the things and makes it super easy. I'd actually argue that following Jesus makes it a little bit harder sometimes. You know, like you get attacked so much more. Yeah. But it's the victory is there. Like, I don't have to fight anymore. I already know where the victory is going. I know where my son's going. Yeah. He proclaims Jesus to anybody and anyone that will hear. That kid talks to God all the time. He has this childlike faith that is spoken about so much in the Bible.
Isn't that amazing?
It was when he couldn't talk. It was like the first thing that he hummed was Philippians 4:13. He would hum it. I can do it. We had it in the NICU. We had that verse just pasted up, and it was just what we would speak over him over and over and over again. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And he would just say it over and over and over again. And then those were the very first words that he said. And it's just incredible how God will use him to soften the hearts of other people. Oh, yeah. And I can only pray that this book would do just a minuscule work as much as my son has done to people. Yeah. I mean, he is unashamedly like, this is my God. This is what I do. This is where I'm going. Like, you should come to church. It's really cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And only God can do that. I'm thankful that you listened, because without it, I'm sure that there's people all over that have had the experience that they would have never had, and to bring them the closest. So let's tell people, where is it that people can get a hold of this book?
It's on Amazon. Okay. So they can buy it on there.
So we'll put a link so that way you guys can click the link, and that way you can check out and get this book, or if there's someone maybe in your life that you know that you think could use this book, maybe sometimes that's the best type of thing, that it may not be for you. You may be a grandma, cousin, neighbor, someone, but you know someone struggling. this is a life-changing book for somebody.
And the other thing I would argue too is a lot of people say that, well, I'm not a special needs person. I share a lot of what I probably didn't even share with my own family and friends and circle during that time. Because, right, people will say, like, can I help you? Can I bring you anything? Can I do anything? And you're just so overwhelmed that you're like, I'm good. Good.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you. And so I would honestly argue to say that if you have someone in your life who is impacted by special needs, you reading it will give you a lot more understanding of maybe what that person is going through so that you can be more graceful and more empathetic. So that was also the second approach, was like hearing it raw from a mom who's going through it to be able to then comfort and be there for someone, like really be there for someone who's going through it, and not just, how can I help you? Like, please don't say that anymore to people. How can I help you? Like, it's the same things that we would need. It's the human condition. Like, what do you need? I need coffee. I need food. I need, all these things. And sometimes it's not about permission. Sometimes it's just showing up and saying like, hey, I got you a Starbucks gift card, or hey, like, here's dinner, and not asking like, what do you like? And all the things, like, get to know what they like and then just do it. And that goes to say, like, I think really, truly that's what the book does for a lot of people too.
I love that so much. What a beautiful gift. I'm incredibly thankful that you came on the show and can share it, because I know with things like these, it just takes one person.
Yeah.
It just takes one person. You know what I mean? Like this whole crazy walk, like sometimes, you don't understand, and then until you do, right? And sometimes we get to know, sometimes we don't get to know, but it's just that one. So we will we'll put the credentials and everything and all the info, so that way you guys can see all of it. So Tiffany, what an amazing story.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not everybody on this show is a Christ follower, but it's nice when they are. We don't change who we are regardless.
Yeah,
so you get me regardless. So I'm going to tell you about Jesus no matter what. So for you, this will come as no surprise, but the last thing we do on every podcast is I'm going to pray for you and your family before we sign off here. So we're going to do this. And this beautiful family that you have, Lord, I am incredibly grateful and thankful to be inside this studio producing this podcast here with Tiffany Snow today. I just want you to just lift this family up. I want you to put a layer of protection over this family, a layer of protection over their marriage, over Mason and his life. Just breathe life and healing and restoration into this family. I want you to just allow the Holy Spirit to move through them and just be so close to them all the time, so they feel your presence all the time, knowing just how much you love them. I'm thankful for this time that we get to spend together today. And I know that there's just a movement that you're going to do behind this. There's going to be someone out there that really, really needs this book, and it's going to change their life. And I'm thankful that me and Tiffany here today were a small piece of getting an ability to be obedient, to get that into the hands of the person that needs it, that they desperately need it, to just give them that hope of you. It's in Jesus' holy and mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Tiffany, thanks for coming on. For those of you out there listening and watching, we're thankful that you have joined us for the Autism Life Today. Please continue to subscribe and click and love and share along the way. We're thankful for those of you that are joining. We're going to continue to bring you amazing people like Tiffany and her family, so that way we can just share this special needs world with you. If it's your thing, or you know someone who may be on this journey, to know that there's a community out there that is working diligently and hard to bring them the hope that we have found. And what we're trying to accomplish is just information that may not be readily available, but we want to be that for you, to be a resource of love and care and hope. So hope you guys are all having a blessed week. We will see you next week on Autism Life Today.